This is our pre-press and data department. This half of the room is pre-press, and the other half of the room is really data. The data side handles a couple of things. They handle all of our data management, which would be mailing and support for the mailing, so the addressing of mailed products, but they also handle the sortation of the data and the preparation of the data for digital printing. One of the things we see towards the end of the tour is going to be digital presses, where it's not like the conventional press that prints the same pieces over and over and over and over. It's actually printing a different piece, maybe a different version or a different tier or level of a piece throughout the run. So you might have, we do a lot of gaming, a lot of hospitality, a lot of retention for the hotel. So a lot of what you see when we're down there will be the different properties around town that are sending out postcards and mailers and club cards and different things to retain their clientele, to get their clientele, to retain them, and part of their retention process is the more you play, the higher your rewards are. So some of that is the data needs to be managed so that the right people are getting the right rewards, or it could just be a catastrophic circumstance. Chip Krill, the gentleman behind us all here, is our pre-press manager. He's been with the company for 17 years. 17 years. So he can pretty much tell you just about anything as far as pre-press. So Chip handles the pre-press, which would be the proofing and the preparation of the file. So he's got the most interaction, the most direct contact, him and his staff, with the clientele, with the designers, to ask the questions. So as far as files being prepared one way and needing to be prepared a different way actually for the printing process, Chip is the one that has to QC all of that before it gets downstream, and colors don't match, things don't line up, panels aren't the right size. He's checking all of those things to make sure that as it goes through the printing, everything is right.
So what percentage of your customers actually deliver product to you that you don't have to fix?
That we don't have to do anything to other than just write files.
Yes.
I would say we're probably looking at maybe 50%, depending on the complexity of the piece. If it's a simple 4-color piece, then obviously those are a lot more reliable than if it's a piece that has spot colors, foils, embossed, die cutting. Those we always have to do something to. Designers typically don't understand how to prepare files to make it work when it goes to press and when it goes to letterpress.
So what incentive designers have to fix it right, or just have the attitude, well, they'll fix it?
Well, one thing is if we have to do it and it's more than just a simple fix, we're going to want to charge you. We're going to want to make it to where you're going to want to fix it yourself or learn how to fix it, because otherwise you're going to end up having to ultimately pay for it. It's just like any other job. We can't do everything for free, otherwise we won't be here.
That is also something that's changing with the market. As the market becomes tighter and tighter, print shops, ourselves included, but pretty much everyone, that used to give things away and fix those and never even talk about it or think about it. It wasn't a big deal. The margins aren't there in printing anymore. So as those margins have dropped, we've got to start charging for the things that we are doing, the legitimate items.
You just gave the reason for this class they're taking.
And in general, we try to always reflect back any problems that we have with the customer. If it is something that we are fixing for them, we always try to reflect back to the designers and say, if you do this next time, we won't have to make these changes. You can do it correctly the first time. So we try to always teach our clients how to do it right so that it makes the process work better next time.
That's the purpose of that book that I was showing you earlier about from Southwest Printers. They were trying to do that to teach their client because they just gave it away, and they wanted to cut back that expense by getting it fixed right. But
and there are some things that we do and we don't charge for it because it's just part of being a good partner. But there are a lot of things that we have to charge for because it is a significant amount of work and time, and it's something that we have to pass back.
And then also keep in mind, as designers, we take the file from you and we'll prepare the file basically under our impression of what it is that you're looking for. If you've got something that's a transparent layer, if you've got something that's supposed to be ghosted back, it's only our impression of what you want. If you build it correctly in the first place, you get exactly what you want. If I'm having to rebuild it, I'm taking some assumption and I'm giving you a proof, but if you haven't thought it through, and all proofs today don't show everything. So they don't show you the side rails, the spots. You can put an overlay, you can see a spot, you can see different things on the proofs that we give you, but you won't see, you'll see a varnish outline on the layer for an emboss, but it won't tell you what type of an emboss die is to be ordered for that to give you a certain effect. If you're looking for a specific effect, you need to tell us, or we're not going to be able to help you get to where you want to go.
And one of the simplest things in that particular circumstance is RGB versus CMYK. A lot of filters, a lot of things that you do in Photoshop, you have to do in RGB. But when it comes time to produce the piece, it needs to be in CMYK. We can convert it on our end to CMYK. We can let our RIP convert it to CMYK. But if you do the conversion on your end before it ever gets to us, then you will have a better representation of what's actually going to be produced. Certain colors don't convert to CMYK well, others do. So that's just a very simple thing that it's very important that you do on your end.
I just have a question. Like,
Sure.
if a client is preparing, or a designer or a client is preparing something, do you advise that they call you first and go, look, this is what I'm doing. How can I best prepare this?
Yes, we do. We always tell our clients that if they're preparing something that is new, different, they're wanting to do something they've never done before, please give us a call. Let us help you out to give you suggestions on, if you do this, the end product is going to be a lot better than if you do this. If you choose this type of effect, you'll get a much better end product. So yes, we always tell our clients, please let us know if you're doing something like that. It makes the process much easier and a lot better end result.
Yeah, that relationship makes it a lot easier, and that discussion up front, on the front end rather, makes it a lot easier again for us to give you exactly what it is you're looking for. It's a big deal. Just talked to a customer yesterday for an annual contract. Theirs had to do with sizes. Literally, if you just change this by a ½ inch, it was a book that was going. If you change it by a ½ inch, it doesn't sound like much. I can cut the cost of your job in half. It doesn't seem like much, but you've designed this for a European standard. So somewhere along the lines, you got hold of a designer that is designing it for a European size versus a standard American size. And if you'll just be able to make that slight change, it's half the impressions, it's everything. And really, it got down to, is the guy going to get something along the lines, is he going to get an 8½ inch book, or is he going to get an 8-inch book? Does it really matter at that point in time? It's not that much different unless you specifically want that. So we'll quote those jobs twice. We'll quote it the way that the customer's asking for it, and then we'll do an additional option. This is our recommendation. Again, based on the information you gave us to quote, this is how we would recommend doing this project. Any questions about proofing or file prep?
Would you like to get your files PDF, or do you think?
If it's a straight 4-color or grayscale, PDFs usually are fine. If there's anything out of the ordinary, any unusual circumstance, then we definitely want native. Native for us is usually InDesign or Illustrator or Photoshop, depending on the piece. The vast majority of jobs are through InDesign, and then Illustrator would be next. Photoshop is usually just support work.
Good question. Good stuff. I'm going to invite you as a guest speaker. Boy, you got...
You're hooked up next time, Chip. You're in.
Really?
Anything else as far as the way we operate, or anything else that you can think of?
So if somebody gives you a native file, then you'll, if you need to convert it to a PDF or something, you'll do that, or
our process that we use, we take the native file and we'll write either a PostScript file or a PDF file, depending on the artwork. Then it runs through our RIP software, our workflow software. It turns it into a PDF if it already isn't one. that PDF file that it creates, then we use that to make our proofs, make our plates, and anything else that we would require. But the actual end product of the native file would be a PostScript file usually.
Do you ever get any really weird file types coming through here, like Printmaster or something that people just send you?
In general, no. We have had some unusual requests, but most of our clients, they have worked with us for years, or they've worked with other print companies, and they kind of know what they're producing. We have had some unusual ones. We get Word files in here. We get publisher files in here. We get PowerPoint files. We'll pretty much try to work with anything that we get, but we definitely have suggestions.
Is Quark Express considered a weird format?
Now it is. It didn't used to be.
It didn't used to be.
Yeah, up until probably about 5 years ago, Quark would have been considered a good file. Now we get a Quark file, and it's just like getting a CorelDRAW file. It's like, oh no.
Oh yeah, CorelDRAW is weird too.
CorelDRAW causes problems, and it's never been a favorite program by most people doing any kind of pre-press file prep.
Well, enough of the stuff that I talk to them about anytime. Let's see the equipment.
Okay.
Well, I mean, starting in here, these are our proofer machines that we use for most of our jobs. They're just Epson inkjet printers. They produce the majority of our proofs. We do have another proofer in the other room that we use on special items. We do use the color DocuColor for low end or proofs that aren't really color dependent. They're more just content dependent. We also have the Epson proofer over there that we make clear overlays on. We use that to put on top of proofs to show where foils, embosses, dyes go. So that's just to help visualize the end product. Most of our computers are Macs. We do have a couple PCs for when clients do send us Windows files. We discourage those just like we do PowerPoint or Publisher, but we do accept them. They're not as bad as they used to be. With the Adobe Suite, things have gotten a lot better, and also with OpenType fonts, things have gotten a lot better to where cross-platform is more a reality than it used to be. This is our imposition plating department. This is where we take the files that we've produced in the other room and we impose them into a layout that then gets produced into plates for downstairs on the press. Depending on the press, depending on the requirements, the imposition will vary. The different presses have different requirements as far as layouts, size, and other pieces of it. The other proofer that I was talking about in the other room, this is our Fuji Final Proof. This proofer actually produces proofs with dots, just like the press would. The other proofer is a stochastic proofer, just basically random dots. This actually has the halftone dots, just like you would have on press. It's made of multiple colors, just like on press. There's a cyan, magenta, a yellow, and a black film that produces the proof. It's more expensive. All of our clients don't use it. It's just on a usually a higher end job. The government likes them. Surprise, surprise. These are the processors for the plates, and then we have two machines that actually produce the plates. Judges fed in a plate into that machine. A laser will basically etch the image into the plate that then will go downstairs and get put onto the press. After he produces the plate on there, it gets fed through here and basically it all starts mixing in. We do have one other proofer over here. This is our imposition proofer. it'll actually, it's the same technology as the Epsons in the other room, but it'll produce a proof on both sides of the sheet. It's used for proofs to verify the layouts. When we have a book or a multiple page document that gets folded together, it helps us make sure that the pages are in the right order, that we've got crossovers and everything else properly. Any questions about what goes on in here? Do you have anything that...
You gonna run a plate through?
He's going to take that one out in about a minute and a half, probably, and he'll process it later. The end product is this. This one just came out. This would be the processed plate. If you look at that plate, it's going to be all solid blue. The laser etches in, and when it goes through here, basically everything that laser has not touched gets washed away. This produces the half-tone dots. In years past, you would be doing this on the film, and the film will then make the plate. The film has gone away pretty much. There are still some that use it, but now almost everything is direct to plate. But if you did look at this under a loop, you would see the half-tone dots. And we're running at 2400 DPI. For plates, typically 2400 DPI is normal, and then we run at 155 lines. The line screen varies depending on the process. Newspapers usually are running, we used to run 85, now I think we're running 100. Some phones at 135. High-end, nice desktop or tabletop look, high-quality look, they'll be sometimes 300 points. 175 is good program. It gives Preston enough flexibility for what they can do, but it also produces a product that is high quality.
Give you an idea, we'll just look at some of these jobs as we go through. So here's really just a poster that we're printing. So we'll send out a proof, maybe a smaller proof. A poster is a rather large piece. Most of our stuff is general commercial, so we do this size, we do larger, but for the most part, we put out a smaller Epson for the customer, so it's more economical for them. They just need to see really the content and the color. That's what they're telling us. So this is what Chip's producing on one of his inkjet printers upstairs that we just looked at. Economical proof is probably, I'm going to guess probably $10 or $12. Gus will get it, and maybe I should, let me pull a set of plates out. We can look at a set of plates. We're going to head around the corner here. You'll have a front seat. what the press is trying to produce on this particular job is just a couple, looks like a couple of brochures for 2 casinos in Mesquite. Both of them are not the exact same format, but close. So I've got a previous sample, I've got the Epson, and then the printing plates. This is where the separation is done. Well, we're going to CMYK. And in this one, I also have a varnish overlay. In that, depending on the job, if there's a spot varnish, I'd have an additional overlay on the proof to show it. I read what they're telling me here. Then it's a flood. So because it's a flood, there's no overlaying, it's just assumed it's everyone. They might give us a spot in that scenario. What they may do is just spot the photographs. They want a little more sheen, a little bit more gloss, and put a gloss varnish or a gloss coating on the spot. We get a variety of presses. This is a 4-color Mitsubishi. It's a 28 by 40. All of our presses are sheet finish. We started sheet, ended sheet. One side at a time. Over a process, overform, turn on one side and turn it over the other side. If I wanted to do a 3-over-2, possibly on the first customer, I can turn the color, switch it over, and then turn the color on. If I want the color to flip it over, process, the next job may be PMS. or it may be going from process to process plus a spot color, process plus a varnish. He may need to change the sequence of his ink for some reason. That's what he's doing now. We go ahead and walk over to the 840. This is main color, 40 Express, same thing as Patrick. Main colors on one side of the sheet, or you got a job like this before, flip it over and print the other four. It's also got a encoder in the middle, and encoder at the tail end. So we can do special effects, like we can lock this encoder. Something shows that after there. Something shows that after there. Yeah, so this is actually straight printing, and in the duller area is actually a dull varnish. This is the gloss to be on top of it. Actually, a dull varnish, gloss to be. Depending on how you get a gloss to you should get a whole different look. Just on the coating, just the varnish. The ink is the same, it's just different. This side, I'm not sure what the not really excited about the artwork that works with what we want to do. The eyes, it's got 2 layers of coating. So I've got a gloss, really across the whole thing. But then in some of the raised areas, is the light reflection. Some of the raised areas, the raised UV on top of that gloss coating, we have the pearlescence, so it's got a blue pearl. And that's one where literally it's a powder way in. The customer comes out, they need to do a press check, and I don't know how much pearl you want. I don't know what you're looking for. I have an idea. Yeah, this is just something that proves and shows. So a customized piece, a special piece. A lot of these are done with the customer piece. They want something that can feel a little bit, and they want something that can see it's great. The reason it's not my favorite piece is light color. With light colors, you really don't see the differences. You really don't see the gloss. Some of the shiniest gloss that you see really is coming off of black, dark blue, dark in color. So even though the effect is there, they were effective. That's what they wanted. It doesn't show everything that's really going on. It doesn't show like a whole lot of effort into this piece and a whole lot didn't go into it. That's one thing that this press does. Again, it's a unique press. But it also, depending on what it is you've got going on, what the customer's looking for, I can print on plastic, I can print on synthetic sheets, I can print on anything that goes through the press. So, the visual press, you know, customers around town, this on the side, probably ran this 2 up on the front piece, let it down to this side, fold it, just to make this. I'll fold it, I'll stitch it on the spine. After I stitch on the spine, we'll do a final trim, and after that, we do what we call a soft fold, so it's a stitch measure. I'll fold it in half to get it to what looks to be a 4x9, and now it's more of a wrap. So it fits in the wrap clip. As you can see, my job is to do this. Walk up the store, see what they're doing next door. It sounds like that was great. It's got a store on it. So what we'll do is we're doing the short fold and doing the other part of the half fold and making a mailing little brochure that's going to be what we call a self-mailer. That self-mailer, to get it in the mail, we have to do a couple of things. The data department has to process the data, but then also on the piece, this is a very unique piece. If you look at some of the things that change, and we talk about variable copy that goes into these jobs, the coupon is variable. It's got Daniel, it's got his player number, it's got probably 1, 2, 3, based on his player history. These photos can be what he does differently. If he's more of a slot person, or more of a poker person, or more of a slot person, whatever it may be, different graphics will show up. My guess is because this graphic showed up, he's probably more of a slot player than he is a table player. It's a little bit different for everybody. Also, we take that data and crunch the numbers. They've actually got the amount of points, the level of player that he is. So he's got a little card here for himself, pocket information of exactly where he stands with the casino each month. This is something new we just started doing with this property, and it's been a big hit for them. And or you can pay a higher price because the mail is the same property. We're going to be good with that one. This one's actually the designer put it together pretty good. We've had problems with the designers before, well, they'll put it up and put it down, and if they move this image, they don't take a lot of things into consideration. That's where the chip steps in. Some of the things that he'll fix, and some of the things he'll address. Like in a job like this, most designers won't take into account the creep that's going on. So the natural creep that happens by putting more pages inside of more pages inside of more pages throws this off. In most books, it doesn't matter. However, in a job like this, it would really show up bad. Now, we've got software that adjusts for that creep. Okay. So I can adjust for the creep in the software, and the computer will do it, and that works out perfectly fine. The problem with that is, in the design, if you have a crossover, it goes from one signature to the next. What the software does is it takes out that extra sliver of print, sliver of copy, it takes it out of the middle. Because it wants the folios, the page numbers or whatever's on the face of the book to land in the same spot, but keep moving it closer and closer to the spine. If you've got a crossover, it'll keep moving it, it'll cut that crossover out. If you're moving in the middle of the time, I could lose a letter. So you have to be very careful about what you're doing. So this job has to be pressed manually. Each one of these needs to be moved in manually from just this far, not this. And then we have to tell our plating department, or imposition, shut up here. We have to tell them, don't reach the book. It is done manually. So we know what to do. This is very similar to the last time we looked at. What this brochure does, we'll go back to the folder, fold in half, and then the little 4x9. on that, I know this color pattern exactly what it is. So we'll go ahead and order now. We'll order in different sizes depending on the job and depending on what press we're going to. Look at some of the pieces, go ahead and thumb through them, but you've also got some dies, and Ron, maybe you can explain some of the dies and some of the differences that we have out on the table.
Okay, you've got you see a copper die here. There's also a copper die underneath the paper where she's at. You can touch that. Try not to scrape and scratch or anything, but you can touch it. They're hard. This has a plastic over it to cover it, but that's a real fine detail on this one. You probably recognize some of the pieces on the table. I tried to get enough out there to kind of represent Ameripress a little bit. This one here is little tiny X's or pluses, or you won't call it. This was an envelope that we did for a customer. You can see it inside of the light. It's a full foil on there that we had to put on that paper. And every single one of them had to show up. I can't let one of them go away. So that was a major detail job right there. So I wanted to bring that out. And then we have some embossing. This is an embossing die that I had brought out. This is what they call a combo die. This die will actually foil, stamp, and emboss at the same time. And here's a sample of it right here. You see the foil on there. It's a bright silver, but it's also embossed. And that's what this die itself did. You want to look at that? Try not to drop it. You can pass that around and see what that does. So there's different things we can do with embossing. You can do the combination with foil and emboss at the same time. A lot of times what we'll do too is we'll emboss and then print over the top of it. So this is the foil stamp. It's all foil stamp and embossed at the same time with the combo die. Like you see that die right there. The die that does the same thing. Okay. With these things, this is heated up on the press, and then the foil has an adhesive on the back. And that adhesive then sticks that color on the paper itself, like here. This was done with the dull silver, and at the same time, it embosses it. And this particular piece, they then ran through the press, and they put ink over it and made it into a certificate. And then we came back through and we did a denomination. In this case, it was 10,000. And then we did a flange die cut, which made this like a edge on it. I didn't have one of those pieces. I'd like to show you, but we don't have those. But you can pass those around. Look at that. Where's the die at? Okay, so it's back there now. So there's various pieces here that you can look at. You can touch them. This is a embossed die that has a counter. And what this does is this pushes the back side of the sheet into the die so that it makes that impression on the sheet. And then you can see various other types of dies here.
What is this material called?
What is the material called? I don't know the paper. It's like a wood grain type paper. Yeah, that's a special paper we had. Over here, these steel rule dies are made for die cutting, which you saw this piece here. This was die cut. This piece here is also die cut. And what it is we have a die maker that makes out the pattern, and then we cut the paper according to that pattern. This was a little tiny envelope of some sort, maybe for a key card, or maybe I don't know, maybe it was a business card that someone was putting inside of it, but it's a little tiny envelope. And what it is steel rule. These are all steel. These are cut. They put the rubber around it so that you don't cut yourself, but it also pushes the paper off of the die, so when you're running multiple sheets of paper really fast, that paper is not going to snag on the die. I've got some samples of the steel rule right here of what we do. I've got some perf, micro perf, and a score. If you want to look at that, it's just metal that's made to a certain die height, and it's made for these dies themselves to go through the presses to do multiple sheets.
of these.
So the die cuts and
Offers for foil stamping and embossing, right.
So if you want something die cut and foiled and embossed, you have to get two plates made.
Several different passes,
So let me ask you something. What does like a, I'm assuming it's expensive.
It depends. People can justify by how many pieces they're running, what the customer wants. It's just that we can do it. We've been put through so many cases, we're able to do it.
What's the longevity of a copper plate?
It could be millions of hits, yeah. And these will then go into a file that we can do it for next year's piece, for additional pieces later in the year. Okay, this is something special. Tracy mentioned to you that we're one of the largest letterpress houses in Las Vegas, maybe even Nevada. But this is something new. This is what we call an apple die. This is the piece that goes into the press that will allow this to be pushed against the paper to die cut it. What it is, it's a small layer that's actually, we've got it taped down. You can see it. It's a small die that's taped down on here.
That's a die cut?
That's a die cut. And I've got one of those right here. This is one that's uncut, and this is the die. This is sharp. You can cut yourself on this if you're not careful, okay? But what that does, that goes right on top of that, and then it cuts that paper. Here's a piece that we ran that's already been die cut. This is a name, so it's done specially. This is a moon that was done special, okay? So you can kind of get an idea of some of the specialty things that we get to do here. Now, this is fun.
Why would you use this as opposed to a steel cut?
Because this is supposed to help us with our laser cutting, to give customers another option. Okay, and optioning our customers, then we're able to make money, but make it maybe cheaper for them. If they want a high-end piece, we can do lasering. This is an option that we can offer our customers so that you guys can then offer to your
It has a laser cut look to it because it's so fine.
Right, you can see it here.
Right, that's awesome.
That looks laser cut.
That's also
It's more for more intricate kind of work.
Right.
This would be that kind of a die.
right, and you can feel it here. This has got some material in it that helps push the paper debris back out so it doesn't stay inside the die or
Something very similar would be a flight.
Wow. This is new.
This is new. It's I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years new. What's it called? This is these particular dies are called apple dies. Apple dies. Yeah. And I don't know if anyone else is doing it right now.
Soft touch on any code sheet.
But that's another option in die cutting technology that we're running into now.
That's so cool. So you could do this as a die cut and embossing on top of it.
I would probably emboss the piece first and then do the die cutting. Die cutting is usually last because we don't want to run something that, especially like this, that if I run multiple sheets to another press, I'm going to be damaging it down the line. Okay, it's probably a last process, and then the hand that gets taken care of, it gets folded, or if it's just a flat deliverable piece, it gets a final trim, then it can go on to boxing and packaging and shipping.
Coding is also coding for a business card might not be a good idea because they'll have a tendency to love it so stuff. But with flight, then you won't see it because it's in the sheet.
Okay, here's a project that we're still working on. You'll see it around the shop over here. This is a die cut for these little tiny they're hand cuts. They'll hold a product. Okay, look at that. This is a specially designed die, and I have it locked up in a chase now that I would end up putting this in my press. You can see the piece there. And what it did, it's cutting each one of these one at a time to the point now that when I'm ready to pull these out, I can pull these out and then they can go down to the handwork or whoever else is pulling these out to be cleaned up. We just did like, I think 12,000 of these yesterday. And 12,000 of those probably took us maybe about 8 hours to do. So it's tough, but it's really neat process. I wanted to show you that because we just did that yesterday. This one here, this is also an old, new process. I say old because these presses, back in the day when they were made, because these are like 50s, 60s, 70s, This is a process that we used where we put ink on some rollers and ran the ink rollers back and forth across that, and actually what we call crash inking. It's crashed because we're smashing dye into the paper. This is what we did. This is ink right here. These are pieces that were crash inked. And then it also has a second process of the emboss. You can see the emboss on there. So if you want to pass that around, that's got ink in it, and that's what this dye right here did. Not that particular inking, but that's a dye.
You consider this different than letterpress printing?
This is letterpress printing.
But you're calling it crash?
I call it crash in the sense that we're actually pushing this against the paper.
Letterpress.
Yeah.
Letterpress.
You guys, you didn't always do letterpress here, did you?
Well, letterpress has evolved to the point where we do a lot of die cutting and foil stamping, but by doing something like this, it becomes even more of a specialty for us because it's not a cheap process.
Well, I was here for the last tour last semester, and I don't think you guys were doing that.
No, we went letterpress stuff like this.
The printing.
Yeah, well, we do every now and then, but we did some of this for, I don't know, the graduation class, or I forget what it was, but yeah, so I went and found a die and put it in the chase. And see, some dies can be very elaborate. This is a die cutting for, I believe this was for a phone for numbers, for room numbers. They could push a button. So this was the centerpiece had little names underneath each of the buttons. So this probably went in a phone. So, you know, we do all kinds of stuff like that. I wanted to bring a fine die out. This is one of our biggest dies. And it made these things here. Okay, you can see a bunch of them back there behind me. Okay, so that went in our biggest press, which is that big monster back in the corner back there, that egg color press back there. And that'll hold a 40-inch piece of paper in the press. So that was all die cut. And it die cut these things right here. Here's a funny die for you. This is actually hearts because we just did a bunch of Valentine stuff. Okay, these were little holes that were actually punched when we did the die cut of the sheet. You can see the little punches in there. So that's a specialty die, if you think of it in that sense. Different shapes. You can do egg shapes. We can do golf balls. We can do hearts, ovals, all kinds of stuff. So we did some door hangers. There's another door hanger on the floor there. So we do a lot of die cutting like this. And then we're also doing, you see a pile of the paper back there. This is foil stamping, but what this is a magnetic stripe. And these magnetic stripes are readable at your cash register. So if someone wanted to buy, this is a gift card for Western Union, that they can get a money amount, then in a card, like you do, you know, Visa cards or stuff like that has a magnetic stripe, we're able to do that. And we just finished 1 million of these. And what we're doing is we're putting them on these presses, which aren't designed for this type of work, but we've figured out a system that we could put these on there. That can go through that press. You can see here I've got an emboss set up on a chase that we use for heating up the dies. It's solid steel. Really, really heavy. So you can imagine what it takes to get that in that press. This is a steel wool die. Walked up. And that also would fit in the press. It made little circles for some company. Basically, it just, I cut the sheet like that. You might have noticed these ones out on the table there. Some school around here, I don't know where. And there's the chase for that. Now that chase is quite a bit smaller. That's a windmill. See it over there? Now you might ask why they call this a windmill. This one's running, so let me show you. See here? That's what picks up the sheet. The sheet's sitting in here. The sucker will pick up the sheet, deliver it in here, and then pull it into the press. See it? Grabbing the sheet. And then watch you take it in the press, and there's a die ready to be hit. So why is that called a windmill? See that thing going around and around?
We call it
Like
a
a windmill
wiper.
blade. That's why they call that a windmill. And this is a probably a 1963 windmill. Foil stamp on that red on that business card. Okay, so you heard the air pumps. It picks it up with the suckers, throws it in the press. It has a release that releases it in the head stops. Lets the sheet go in, hit exactly the same spot every time. And then the suckers grab it and pull it out. So we're putting foil stamp on that round corner business card. So letterpress did the foil stamp and it did the round corner stripe. So when we have time to sit around, we have other things. Now these will run 23 by 30.
Our mail shop and our digital imaging department. So what we've got is a couple of different HP digital presses, HP 5000, HP 7000. They do a variety of digital work. Digital work is mostly used for a short run process that might be static, so all the same, but if somebody wanted 4/4 and they wanted 10 sheets or 100 sheets or a couple of hundred, it's probably a lot more economical to print them on one of the digital presses. Or if someone has a variable job that they want to print 4/4 and incorporate color swap or image swap throughout the piece, if they're sophisticated enough in their data to do that, these are the presses you would do it on. For us, we have 2 HPs, and our newest press is a Xerox iGen. It's iGen 4, so it's the 4th generation of this device. It's got an oversized kit, which is one of the nice things for us, which is why we bought it. And for us, what that means is I can print a 14 1/3 sheet by 26. Whereas historically, we were doing 13 by 19, which was the biggest sheet we could do. So a couple of different pieces. This is the most common one because you've seen this going on around the shop. So this is just 2 pieces. Remember that we're 4/4 and there were 2 scores. One that scored this panel. I'm saying that wrong. A score here and a score here. So the customer had his individual information and then it folded over and glued. This is the machine that we printed on. This is probably between 50 and 80,000 pieces is about what that mailing is. We also do some smaller static jobs. This is actually just a static job that they want a very specific color shade. So we do it over here to where I can adjust it, and the customer can pick, that's the one I want, and then I go ahead and print it. And all that's done digitally, so there's no mixing of ink 2 and 3 and 4 times for him to decide which one. So he's washing up the press between each one. It's print 2 sheets, make the color change, print 2 more sheets. And then this is another mailer that's going. This is an 8-page mailer, so this will fold in half this way, and then fold in half this way to an 8-pager. And this back panel is blank. It actually gets tipped into another mailer. This will be a mailer that opens up and has a booklet glued to the inside. And you flip through the booklet, that's their big book. This is for their high end. This is a rather unique sheet. This sheet's called it's a Coronado stipple. So it's a 100-pound cover, but if you feel it, it's actually got a stipple finish to it. And basically a lot of dimples is all it is, just a lot of dots is all the colors. You can see it in the reflection, just how it moves, but just a different finish is all the sheet is. And you can see it probably mostly in the darker colors. For the Xeroxes down here, these are all new bearers. We've got 5 new bearers for black and white. And what they're doing is a variety of jobs. They might do, we've got 6 like Xerox right now doing a black over black book for the government. We do a lot of government printing here. So actually this is a case-bound book. So for us, we print the text digital. We send it out. We don't do it here. So we do the printing and the folding. After I print it and fold it, I send it out to a case binder where he wraps the cover. He'll actually foil this and give us back the printed book, or the final book.
You have somebody in town that does that?
This is done out of town. This right now I think is being done in the Phoenix area, this particular job. No one in town does case binding. So a little bit of everything depending on, again, what the customers are looking for. Now our portion of that job is very simple. It's just black over black on a 50-pound offset. It's very easy for us, and I fold it in half. When it comes together on the bookbinder, that's where that really becomes an impressive piece. The rest of the machines are doing what we call a shell, which is the same thing. It's basically a lithomaster with some blank areas where we'll go and imprint later the variable data for this. So this will be a 2-up piece. So basically one of those, and after we image it, we'll send it over the folder, they'll store it, fold it in half, glue it, it'll mail out. The only other thing really we've got here are we have 3 inkjet lines. Inkjet lines are probably our lowest resolution or our lowest quality of printing that we do here. Walk and talk at the same time. So this is a 4-color jet press. It's also a UV press, so it cures automatically, it cures instantly. It is predominantly an envelope press, so it takes finished envelopes and prints them on one side. So you get an idea of what it does out here. It also does sheets. It's designed for envelopes. It's a continuous feed, so it never stops. Keep feeding the envelopes, it keeps coming through. It'll print at about 30,000 envelopes an hour. When you get to that speed, you may very well need to have 3 people on the machine. If one person, if all he or she can do is to feed the machine, and it's all the other person, if the other end of the machine can do to pick them up, put them in a box. You can't get them away from the machine. Excellent machine job, it's great. That's just some samples of different parts it does. Look, not all of them bleed to the edge, but some of the pieces do bleed to the edge. This machine can bleed off all 4 edges, so long as it has room for the gripper. Talk about designers, talk with designers, if you get a job like that or similar to that, if you give it to us, we might tell you, move your bleed out, change this a little bit, make this adjustment, or why don't you bleed it to the edge? You know, you can have all that information. If you visibility, you can go ahead and do that. We can give you those recommendations. Over here, really what we've got is a couple of older GTO presses. These are probably mid-80s, but again, these are presses that just I like letterpress. They just keep printing and printing and printing, and nothing goes wrong with them. They continue to print. They're excellent little workhorses. And if you look down here, this is just a variety of the things that they print. So this is a laminated stock that's actually a 3-die cut sticker. They're just printing black ink on it, something very simple. Certificates that, if I remember right from this morning's meeting, tomorrow these are going to go and have a holographic gold seal put on it and be numbered over to the letterpress. They have crash numbering machines, so they want to look and read that number. They want to feel it, so they do it on the letterpress. We could number it on a laser, which would just be black ink, or put it into an inkjet, like to switch out the ink and print whatever color they want, but they want to feel it. They want to look at it. So these will get that holographic seal put on, as well as a number. And you talk about turns. This one is due out. This will go out tomorrow. This will go out tomorrow. And I found out about this job this morning at the 9 o'clock meeting, which means you probably got it. press room. This is the small press area. The only thing we have at the other end is a coder, which isn't running right now, but that is a new press to us. Actually, it's a press we had, so we took a two-color GPO and converted it to a one-color 2D press. So now it's printing 2D with one printing unit, pink 2D. So we took the other printing unit, we gathered it, and turned it into a font color. So I can do my font UVs, font aqueous, I can flood aqueous, flood UV, specialty coatings.